The German Shepherd is a trotter. He must be capable of covering long distances with a minimum use of energy. A prerequisite for this is a construction in accordance with the standard and dry, firm and strong muscles. The medium-speed trot is the most natural one for the German Shepherd. A prerequisite for far-reaching movement is the correct angulation of the limbs. Only with correct angulation of the hindquarter can the hind feet step into the print of the forefeet or even in front of them. In movement, the trotter assumes an almost level position. The forward movement initiated by the hindquarter is transmitted via the croup and back to the forehand. This is why a long and sloping croup and a short, strong back are of utmost importance to the trotter. A correctly angulated hindquarter and broad, well-muscled thighs move the dog into a powerful drive. The forehand has the task of completing the forward movement and catching the body. A deciding factor in length of stride is the correct length and placement of the shoulder blade and upper arm. An effective drive and a free reach are prerequisites for flowing and far-reaching movement. How does the movement look without the covering of muscles? Faults of construction affect the harmonious performance of the movement. For example, faults in the top line interrupt the line of energy through which the forward drive is directed. The soft back acts like a buffer. The dog has no line and falls on the forehand. Restrictions in the angulations affect the length of stride. The other modes of movement of the German Shepherd are walk, gallop, and pacing. The walk is the slowest movement. The dog always has 3 legs on the ground at the same time. He begins the movement with first pushing one hind leg forward and then lifting the front leg and placing it forward. The transition from trotting to galloping is a flowing movement. The gallop is the fastest movement, but can only be maintained for a short period of time. The gallop is a jumping movement, that is, a series of leaps linked together closely at speed. Pacing is the normal mode of movement of the giraffe and the camel, but is a fault in the German Shepherd. When pacing, both the foreleg and hind leg of the same side are moved forward together. For a faultless movement performance, the lines of support are also of great importance. Lines of support are imaginary lines which run parallel to the ground. Lines of support which are not correct shift the center of gravity of the dog, which means an unfavorable distribution of body mass. When the lines of support are not straight, the cushioning effect of the limbs at the various modes of movement would be unfavorably affected. As you can see, the lines of support run parallel through the joints. A straight limb construction is a prerequisite for a secure stance and unrestricted movement of the dog. The German Shepherd should therefore have correct lines, because only then he is capable of standing for long periods of time and of producing an enduring trot. This dog stands cowhocked. His lines of support are not straight. He does not stand or move correctly. His movement therefore crosses and sways. When the chest is too narrow, the elbows are pushed in and the front pasterns are turned out. He moves and stands east-west. By contrast, a dog which stands and moves correctly, his lines of support are correct. The judging of the anatomy is done at breed shows and surveys. For this, the SV has evolved a scheme according to which the shepherd is assessed and graded. It begins with the checking of the teeth. The tattoo number in the right ear. Checking testicles. Next, the assessment of size, proportions, strength of bone and ratio of height to length.
Anschließend werden beurteilt Kopf,
then head, withers,
Rücken
back
und Gruppe,
and croup,
sowie die Winkelung
as well as angulations and chest proportions are assessed.
Aus der Sicht von vorne,
Viewed from front, the correctness of the front.
die Gangwerksüberprüfung,
The movement, the sequence of steps, viewed from the front, rear and at the trot.
für die Beurteilung des
For the assessment of the trot, the length of stride and overall firmness are of importance.
ein weiterer Blick gilt
A further glance is given the ear and tail carriage.
Im Urteil sind die positiven
Both faults and virtues are to be recorded in the assessment.
das Abwägen dieser
The summing up of the individual points leads to an overall assessment, the result being a breed survey report.